Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into the St. Louis Sports Show. It's Colton Kaler with along Rodney Newpol. Rodney, how you doing on this fine Saturday evening?
Sunday, Colton. It's Sunday.
It's
There's, there's
that's
your first
twice today.
mistake. There's your first mistake. Chalk it, boys and girls. Colton has made a mistake the first 5 seconds of the show. It is Sunday. It is the first day of May, and I am doing well, although the weather out here is just not great. Not great, Bob. It's just not real good. Cloudy, about 52 degrees, windy all day. Probably hasn't been a very good golfing day for you, huh, Colton?
Can we just cut it? We'll restart and we'll run back through so I can get through the first 5 seconds
Yeah.
uninterrupted. But no, it's been not the best of golfing days. Even if I could golf today, I wouldn't be. Unfortunately, schoolwork comes first as much as I hate it. So but again, as I told you, when you procrastinate, it's what you get. So
That's right.
here I am stuck inside.
What does my camera look like? Is it flashing all over the place?
Yeah, it's kind of glitching out here a little bit. I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. I'm hoping it stops that soon, or we're gonna have strike number 2 on this show. But yeah, I mean, it's a good day. Cardinals picked up a win. We were a little bit nervous that they weren't going to, and then obviously postseason time's coming along for the St. Louis Blues. So excited for that. Yeah, I think that looks better. Looks better, Colton.
Yeah, we'll put that up. We'll make that a little bit better.
There we go. But yeah, it's been a good day. Good come from behind Cardinal win today.
Yeah, so if you got any thoughts, questions, throw them in the comment section. We'll put them up here. We'll get to it. But it looked early like the Cardinals were going to lose 3-4 to the Diamondbacks, and not a good way to end a homestand. But they find a way to rally late and get it done. I mean, just good teams find a way to win, and whether you want to call St. Louis a good team right now, they found a way to win.
Yeah, and I give the player of the game today to Harrison Bader. Big home run for Harrison Bader. Needed that. Needed a big hit for him. And obviously Paul Goldschmidt's going to come back and bat too. But any thought? Obviously, this is with Tommy Edman still in the lineup. But any thoughts to Bader batting 2, maybe Goldschmidt 3, Arenado 4, and bump O'Neill down the lineup at some point, right?
You got to get O'Neill out of the 3 spot. I mean, he's not swinging the bat well, period. And especially in the 3 spot, the 3 spot eventually is his spot. He's definitely that power hitter. He's just got to find his stride. And you saw in his one at bat today where, I mean, Davies threw a 58-foot changeup and he swung at it. I mean, it wasn't close. And he's just, for some reason, he's in a little bit of a funk. That's only the second home run by our outfield this year. Yeah. And the first one came on opening day from O'Neill. So how much of a kind of smoke and fire was that on opening day? You see O'Neill, 5 RBIs, a home run. You're like, oh, this might be an MVP type season. Yeah. And then he's just not done anything since.
Yeah, and I know you and I went back and forth quite a bit on, calling guys up, and we can get to the Nolan Gorman thing later. But I am more the type, like, I need to switch this lineup around a little bit before I start panicking with different guys. I mean, you're going to have a hard time changing that roster around drastically. You just are. I mean, Nolan Gorman, should he be up? Should he not be up? I mean, we all agree he probably should be up, but I think we disagree when he's going to come up, things like that. That's fine. But you've got a whole bunch of major leaguers that don't have options, so you're not going to trade them. You're not going to DFA them. You can't send them to the minors. So what I would like to do is I would like to see a switch in the lineup, and I think Ollie did a pretty good job today. Goldschmidt getting that day off, you put Bader up there a little bit, you try to get things moving. You obviously got to move Carlson down. I mean, we all know Dickerson's been struggling. You got to move him down the lineup a little bit. And that's how I'd like to see some things move here. And don't get me wrong, I mean, this team's 12-9, and I put the numbers out there earlier. They're on pace to win 93 games. You win 93 games, you're going to make the playoffs, no matter how many the Brewers win. So I'd just rather see kind of what they're doing now and kind of figuring out what the hot lineup is and play the lineup that makes sense right now.
Yeah, and there's quite a bit I feel like they could change up, and Bader moving up in the lineup definitely makes sense. Now with Edman out, do you put Bader, who knows how long Edman will be out. He was pulled from the game today with his hip flexor, his left hip. which that's never fun to deal with when that's sore. I will say that. But if he's out for, a week maybe, do you see Bader move into that leadoff spot?
Yeah, I mean, I think with this, with the lineup we have right now, uh, even if they do call up, Nolan Gorman because Edmund goes on the DL or IR or whatever it's called at this point. Yeah, I think Bader is probably your leadoff guy because we've seen Carlson not hitting right now. So yeah, I think that would be the right choice.
And there is a lot that you can change around, and I don't think that even the front office disagrees that Gorman should be up, but they're just not sure what to do with their roster currently because they don't want to just throw Tommy Edman
Right.
at shortstop, something that he hasn't had a whole lot of practice at. Obviously Sosa is not the answer. They don't want to throw Gorman at shortstop. I mean, trying to figure out what to do there is very it's kind of what's causing all this issue. The guy's hit 11 home runs. He's off to a hot start, but there's got to be a spot in the field for him.
Yeah, I mean that's just really where it is. Because again, like we've talked about, like what are you going to do? Unless Paul DeJong goes on the injured list, he's going to be on the roster. He's probably just going to keep playing or at least platooning with somebody. Sosa hasn't gotten off to a real good start. I'm not sure he's the answer yet. I mean, I think that's just where we're at is you're going to see a few more weeks and months go by here and hope that they, and they're going to say all the right things like he's got to produce. We're hoping he comes through. We're putting the work in, all the cliches are out there. I'm just more in, okay, we're in mid-June or late June, early July, and they're not getting done. Now you got to fix something because right now you are floating above water with your guys. And I'm a big team chemistry guy. Like those guys love Paul DeJong. I truly believe that. I mean, Harrison Bader talked about it after the game. Like they're rooting for him. They want him to do well. So I think, the struggles and you take him out and sit him and bury him, I think it could hurt a little bit. I really do. So yeah, you're right. In the end, it got to be a position for Nolan Gorman. And I'm just not sure they're there yet.
Right. But at the end of the day, it is a business. And so, like Mo has said yesterday, if you look at his comments, it sounds like the patience is starting to wear a little thin. And he knows just as much as anybody that you have to produce to play in this league. And right now, Paul DeJong is not producing. Yeah, he went 1 for 4 today with a double. That double probably saved him at least another 2 weeks. Unless something were to happen in the near future. But there's got to be some consistency, but also he's not the only one struggling. As much as I dislike the production that I'm getting from Paul DeJong, at the end of the day, we have half of our lineup hitting under 200.
Right.
I mean, he's not the reason that they're 12-8, 12-9 right now.
Yeah, that would be my next point is if Corey Dickerson, Dylan Carlson, Tyler O'Neill were all hitting and this team was 16-5, would we even know what Paul DeJong's numbers are? He'd sit at the 9 spot in that order and we're like, okay, yeah, he's struggling, but would we even know? Would we even be talking about it? Probably with the way Nolan Gorman's hitting. If Nolan Gorman's starting Memphis at 200 with a home run, are we even thinking about pulling Paul DeJong from this lineup? Those are all things I take into consideration. And Nolan Gorman's not going to stay this hot. He's not going to hit, what is he on pace for, 120 home runs or whatever he's on pace for. He's not going to do that. No. Just like I don't think Paul DeJong's going to hit 135. Now, what's his ceiling? I know you mentioned earlier his all-star year, he was 230. But that's probably what Paul DeJong is. He's probably a 220 to 250 hitter. But at some point, you'd like to see 20 to 30 home runs, and that's where he is not doing that either. Like, I would take 200 with 30 home runs from Paul DeJong. He's going to bat 9 for you because you got Arenado, you got Goldschmidt. Those guys are going to produce runs. But he's not doing any of them right now, and he's not great in the field right now either.
Exactly.
A couple, threw one away. So I'm still giving him a little bit, but yes, I think the patience is wearing a little bit.
Well, and you make a great point there, and kind of is leading to my next point. you have a guy in Harrison Bader that offensively is not his strength. I mean, defense is where he's going to make plays for you.
Yeah.
And if you get 250 out of him for a season, you are ecstatic. I feel like, a guy that can just get on base and give you opportunities. But unfortunately, when you're not quite sure what all we're going to get out of Dylan Carlson. We've seen a year out of Tyler O'Neill, but can he do it again?
Right.
We really don't have a foundation behind the plate right now. That's a point I want to get to later. But how many positions are you willing to give up offensively for the defense? And you pointed out, he's made a few, bugaboos Paul DeJong has, and today he made a great play, to keep that ball in the infield. Short hops one. If that's Paul Goldschmidt, that's an out. Unfortunately, Albert Pujols is 42 years old and just can't quite field that one.
Yeah, I mean, and you're going to see Albert play first base 6 times this year. I mean,
right.
Paul Goldschmidt's not going to sit for another month unless he gets hurt. He's just not. So yeah, I mean, you're right. That does make that play, but I mean, yes, but the problem is at shortstop. Could you get a little bit worse in the infield? Yes, and you still be okay because the rest of the infield is good.
You're right.
But it's shortstop, and do you want to downgrade your defense at shortstop? That's important. I mean, because not only because there may not be an error, but now maybe you're not turning those double plays as easily. Your footwork's a little off, and that guy beats that bang bang play. Instead of the third out, now there's first and third, 2 outs, and the other team busts the game open. So there's just a lot of little things that I'd be careful changing your defense at shortstop because this is a pretty good defensive team, and I think that's something you want to keep intact.
No, I agree, and I think it's more that they're more afraid of what they're going to lose than what they're going to gain.
Right.
They know what they're going to get out of Nolan Gorman. I feel they have a very good idea, but what are they going to lose by moving Tommy Edman to short?
Right.
What's his production going to be like defensively? But at the end of this year, you're still assuming things continue status quo right now and DeJong continues to not produce, at some point this year, you're going to have to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
So what's going to change between now, May 1st, versus June 1st or June 25th?
Yeah, all good questions. All good questions. And a lot of people will say, well, why can't you bring Gorman up to be a designated hitter? And I'll give you 2 reasons why he's not going to come up and be designated hitter. Number 1 is they signed Corey Dickerson, whether we like it or not. Number 2 is they signed Albert Pujols, whether we like it or not. They're not going to, in May 1st, be like, you know what? We're going to go to this rookie. We're going to forget those 2 guys we signed, and we're going to play that guy. Whether it should be or not be, they're not going to do that. You know it. I know it. We all know that.
Very few organizations will do that to begin with. I mean,
no. Well, you're not going to sit. You're not going to sit your 42-year-old legend for a rookie. I understand Albert's not playing every day. I think Albert understands that. I think Albert agrees to that. But you're not going to be like, you know what? You're never playing because this guy's going to play every day. And then Corey Dickerson, he's like, dude, I've been here 3.5 weeks. Like, I started slow, but I got a decent track. I mean, the guy's got a decent track record. No, not great. He's got a decent track record. I don't think you want to bury him in May.
No.
And I know we don't necessarily like Corey Dickerson. I'm frustrated with him, but you can't bury him in May. And that's where Nolan Gorman's not going to be your designated hitter either.
And it's the same thing with Dylan Carlson. He's starting off slow. Paul Goldschmidt's, picked it up recently, but started off very slow. I mean, just got his first home run on Thursday night of the year. So it's going to take that, especially because Paul Goldschmidt historically has been the slow April guy. I mean, it is what it is. But, he really heats up in the summer months once, the weather starts to get warmer. Dylan Carlson, a California guy, will he be the same way? Who knows? But my other concern is looking at the 5 spot. I don't necessarily have a problem with Jordan Hicks, but just letting him go 3 innings and then turning into a bullpen game every 5 days is not a recipe for success.
Yeah, that's frustrating to me too. But the problem is we're never going to see Jordan Hicks in like the 6th inning. We just aren't.
No.
I don't think we're just not. We're not going to see him this year in like the 6th inning. So if they're going to continue to do this, this is what's going to continue to happen. And we're not even hearing about Libator right now. So
His last 2 starts we have, but
well, yeah, we're
that,
hearing what he's done, but we're not hearing any talk about him getting called up.
Right.
It's not on the horizon. They got other guys they're looking at for the horizon, and yes, they're probably going to find a guy in July to be a rotation guy. It's going to be like John Lester's twin, or it's going to be J.A. Happs's corpse. It's going to be it's going to be something like that. Jamie Moyer or Bartolo Colon might come over to the Cardinals. But yeah, I mean, we're going to continue to see this. It's frustrating. I don't like it. I don't like Jordan Hicks starts.
No, I think he would be a great out of the bullpen kind of long relief guy. He would fit so well in that role, and even as a setup man. I mean, you saw what Ryan Helsley could do today. There's no reason that Jordan Hicks can't do that.
Well, pulling up the schedule, they have May 9th and May 25th off. So I guess there's 2 opportunities you could move Hicks's starts, but I don't think it's happening. I think they're pretty committed at this point to starting him every 5 days.
Right. And Kyle Schwarber just hit his 2nd home run of the night off Max Scherzer. So Phillies go back up 3-2. But hey, I want to get to Blues because that's the other thing that we want to get to tonight. They start tomorrow in Minnesota against Dan Bradley's team. The Blues won the season series, swept the Minnesota Wild. You were at that first game on a frigid night in Minnesota. You've got the jersey on right now. And then the Blues win the last 2 in St. Louis, both in overtime. Very interesting games down the stretch. Dan chiming in here, go Wild, unfortunately.
And both those games were within like a week of each other, both late in the season. I mean, I see some people saying 7 overtime games. I mean, that's likely not going to happen, but it's a possibility, obviously, between these 2 teams. They don't necessarily like each other. They're divisional teams, divisional rivals. So it's going to be interesting. I personally don't think home ice matters in this series.
In this series, because they're so evenly matched, I agree with that. And we've basically known that this was going to be the matchup for like weeks at this point.
Oh yeah.
It's really not a surprise, and it's something that a lot of people have kind of been preparing for. But one thing that really struck me today was in the media availability with Craig Berube. They asked him who's going to start in net, and he didn't answer. You know what he said? He goes, I don't know. I'll send you guys a text message. Does that kind of give you any inclination that he's thinking about starting Jordan Binnington?
I told my brother Randy yesterday, I think the Blues have a goalie problem. I think they have a goaltending problem, and I'm not overreacting because they gave up 7 goals in the last game. But here's what I see. I see Jordan Binnington not being super sharp. Now, he's been better recently when he played. And I see Ville Husso as a guy not ready for the postseason. While he's been good most of the time, this is his first time on stage.
Right.
Jordan Binnington's been there, but he's not playing very well. I think the Blues have a goalie problem. But Dan says if Binnington starts the series wild in 4, I don't know about that. I mean, I think you'll see Binnington steal a game if he starts. I don't know as if Husso is going to steal a game. I think Husso will be good, not great. I think Binnington could have the chance of being great. I don't know if that makes any sense. I think the Blues have a goalie problem, and I've told you my pick here, and it's not going to be popular with our St. Louis sports show, but I think the Blues have a goalie problem, and I don't like the situation that's going on now. Yes, it got you to second in the division. Yes, it got you to 15 games in a row with points. But that's still second place, and now you're still in this situation where you got to win round 1, and I don't know if we know who your goalie is. So I think they got a goalie problem.
I agree a little bit. Binnington has been much better in his most recent starts. Obviously, the last one against Colorado was not the best, but Colorado can do that to the world's best goaltender. I mean, they're just that good. And I'm gonna be honest, in my real bracket, I've
traveled every
nice. Nice.
Well, gotta love the ESPN app. They for some reason feel the need to just play random music whenever. So as I was saying,
could be worse.
What's that?
The music could have been worse.
Oh, that is true.
Speaking of, real quick, I got about a 30-second tangent. Have you ever listened to TikTok radio?
No.
Don't do it. That's all. We'll get back to hockey now.
I watch enough TikTok as is. I don't think I need to listen to TikTok radio.
Well, I don't do much TikTok at all because I'm too old. But my son wanted me to turn on the Sirius XM TikTok radio, and like I had to change it like a half dozen times, because they just kept saying swear words, and he's 10. Like I can't let that happen. But the music is just not good. Anyways, let's get back to hockey. Dan says, go ahead. You want to talk about Dan's comment?
Well, I was going to say, welcome to modern day music, Rodney. It's why I choose not to listen to it. But Dan says, for what it's worth, Wild have a goalie who do you start issue as well. They've got Fleury. Talbot hasn't lost in regulation since March 1st. And here's the thing. Binnington kind of came on the scene in 2019 out of nowhere, went on that hot streak. In his first look in the limelight, the guy just was a brick wall. I mean, he really was. And that team just kind of had that it factor to it a little bit. And so, but you look at his numbers the last few years since 2019, and they've regressed big time. I mean, not good. And it's once, as a rookie, you hit that kind of peak, it's really hard to continue that over the years. And I may sound crazy for saying this, but does St. Louis think about possibly having a third goaltender with Chucky Sideburns?
No.
I mean, he was 5-0 in his 5 starts this year for the Blues.
You can't do that. You can't do that. Good question, but you can't do that. So Dan's question, I mean, you can talk about that more if you want, but I think that's absolute no. Dan's question. So the Blues have not faced Marc-Andre Fleury as a member of the Wild this year. I remember the Wild starting. Now, that did play him. Of course, he was with the Blackhawks, but that doesn't count because the Blackhawks are like an AHL team. Andre Fleury gave up 4 goals back in February. He gave up 5 goals in early February to the Blues, but has not faced him as a member of the Wild. Every time they played this year, it was Cam Talbot. Who do you start if you're the Wild? Are you starting Cam Talbot or are you starting the Flower?
I don't know. I would probably have to say Talbot. You ride the hot glove, in my opinion.
The Flower's 37 years old.
Right. He's won a Stanley Cup or 2. And has Talbot won I believe he won one with the Capitals, maybe, when they won.
Talbot's not young either. He's 34. I didn't realize he was 34 years old. But
the thing is, for St. Louis, I mean, that the offense, there's just so many weapons. You saw in the Winter Classic, Jordan Kyrou, said hello to the hockey world that had no idea who he was. He had a heck of a game. Pavel Buchnevich is going to turn out to arguably one of the best trades that, Armstrong's ever made. Robert Thomas is solidifying himself as, not only the number 1 center on the team, but arguably one of the best centers in the league. Vladimir Tarasenko, leads the team in points, I believe, in goals. I mean, looks like vintage Vladdy. There's just so many weapons that this team has that it's going to be tough for either goaltender.
Definitely going to be tough, but Minnesota's got dudes as well. Kaprizov's really, really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
And we saw that no lead is safe, especially in the last 2 games. The Blues were, I believe, both those games and then kind of piddled it away late. I know they were in the last one.
Yeah, I mean Minnesota with Fiala, Zuccarello, Hartman. I like Ryan Hartman quite a bit. That guy just continues to find his way to the net. I think he ended up with 65 points this year. I'm scared of Minnesota, man. I just am. I'm scared of Minnesota. I know the trends. The trends say the Blues have controlled the Wild over the last whatever amount of time, but trends change, man. I'm scared of this Wild team. I think game one's going to be a big one. I think it's going to set the tone for the series. And I know that's cliche. A lot of times it doesn't always happen that way. You know, game one goes one way and the series goes the other. But I don't know, man. I something's clicking with Minnesota that really, really, really makes me nervous.
And especially you look at that last game by St. Louis. They played on Tuesday night in Colorado. They don't play till, or did they play Monday night? It was Monday or Tuesday.
The Vegas
they had
game.
a long break.
Oh,
and then the Vegas game, just you could tell. I mean, they were flat.
Well, yeah, it didn't matter.
Flat to begin with, and it was just not good. And Minnesota down the stretch really kind of controlled their own destiny a little bit, and they took advantage. I mean, they beat a Colorado team. Now, granted, was Colorado, kind of coasting it in? Who knows? Because they'll get Nashville and they'll win that series in 4 games, and they'll go on to the second round. But
if I wanted to be contrarian, they also lost to the Coyotes 5-3 just a week ago.
Who, the Wild?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've also lost to the Coyotes this year at some point. But my point earlier that I was trying to make before ESPN rudely interrupted me, I lost my train of thought again. Wow. We are just rolling here tonight, Rodney. Messed up in the first 5 seconds. Lost my train of thought again.
I think the good news is my camera quit glitching.
That is good news.
That's good news. But anyway,
it's going to be a long series. I feel like, 6 or 7, I think at the minimum, unless one team is just completely blown off their heels.
Are you asking me for my pick?
Sure. Let's do it.
Wild in 5.
Really?
Sorry, I'm not feeling it. I'm just not feeling it. I really think there's something to this Wild team. I think they're going to go tooth and nail with Colorado in round 2. I am not willing to take them beating Colorado in round 2, but I am not sold that won't go 7 games. I'm not sold. I like this Minnesota team. I'm going Wild in 5. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I am wrong. And I'm willing to do some kind of goofy, friendly, wager, but I'm on the Minnesota side here. So
I'll go Blues in 6. You know what? We'll go a game longer, and I'll take the other team. I really am confident in our ability in the way that we've played against Minnesota this year. And if they can continue that, but I've said all year, the it factor of this team, the X factor, is Jordan Kyrou. He has to play well. And he's been kind of, not great down the second half of the season. He's been kind of non-existent, if you will. So will St. Louis figure out their goalie issues in the short run? Who knows? I would not be surprised to see Binnington to start game 1. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to say it's Husso, but I won't be surprised to see Binnington in net for game 1.
Kyrou was a little better late in the year. He ended up with his last 3 games with points, including 3 against Colorado. But yes, he went through that long stretch where he was having a tough time scoring points. But if he gets on the board a few times, he does, then it's gonna be an interesting series, and I think the Blues are there. But I just don't see it. I think I like Minnesota's veteran presence, and I know the Blues have the veteran presence. They got all sorts of guys that have cup experience, but I'm going Minnesota in 5, man.
I truly don't think it matters. I don't see Colorado not getting to the Stanley Cup Finals. They're so good. It's not even funny.
Because
they're physical, they're fast, they can shoot. They have arguably one of the best players in the NHL.
Because if you look at it, it's probably going to be, obviously likely going to be Calgary, but I guess there's an opportunity for, Edmonton never wins in the postseason, so you can't count on them. I personally don't think the LA Kings are any good at all. I just don't.
No.
I don't know. I mean, because 8 teams have to make it, and then
Dallas
it's
won't do anything.
yeah, the other opportunity is Dallas. So if you're looking at a Calgary, Colorado, and don't get me wrong, Calgary is a nice team. They're a nice team. They're tough to win, tough to beat at the Saddle Dome up there. But if it's Colorado, Calgary, yeah, I don't like Calgary's chances at all.
No.
My pick is the Colorado Avalanche and the New York Rangers for the Stanley Cup.
The New York Rangers. Okay.
The New York Rangers. And somebody was telling me about how talented the East is, and they are very correct. The East is very talented. But one thing I want to point out, there are 13 out of the 16 teams that finished with 100 points in the NHL this year. And then those other 3 teams, the Kings, 99, the Stars, 98, and the Predators, 97. It was top and it was bottom this year in the NHL. Big time. No middle ground. There was just no middle ground. Those middle ground teams sucked, including there's never a bad opportunity to mention how bad the Chicago Blackhawks were.
Yes, there's always room for that. But you look, Dan says this series will be won or lost by how the Greenway, Erickson, Eck, Foligno line matches up with Buchnevich, Thomas, Tarasenko line, strength versus strength. I mean, the second half of the season, the Buchnevich, Thomas, Tarasenko might arguably be one of the greatest lines St. Louis has ever had. I mean, this is by far and away the best offense St. Louis has ever had in the history of the franchise. And there's no doubt about that. And Minnesota's got a line that is just as good. But what's really kind of caught my eye, Rodney, down the late half of this season is the St. Louis fourth line. Dakota Joshua with Nathan Walker, and you sprinkle in whoever your third guy is there, whether it's Brown or whether it's Toropchenko. They've been surprisingly good. And I think that could be, if they, and Joshua was recalled from Springfield, if they're remotely good and effective in that series, I think that could really also flip the table for St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a fourth line would make a big difference for either squad, any squad. A fourth line, a big goal or causes a big penalty late. Yeah, I think that those are obviously huge keys to that. But don't you think Kaprizov's still the best player on the ice?
By far. That dude just gives me nightmares. I will say that. That is, I'm waiting for him to just absolutely dominate this series. As much as I love Kyrou, Kaprizov is by far and away the best player on the ice in this series.
Yeah, and that scares me. They've got the best player, and I think the better goaltending situation. That's why I'm going Wild in 5. There
you have it. Any final thoughts, Rodney, before we get on out of here?
Really looking forward to it, and I know you said it doesn't matter, and it doesn't if Colorado beats them. Obviously, going to a second round, but winning a playoff series is fun. So going to playoffs, watching playoffs. I know I'm picking the Wild, but obviously we'll be thrilled to death if the Blues win round 1, get another week of hockey, a second round, and whether they go to more nights, 8:30 nights. I'm not complaining about those 8:30 nights. Those guys in the East Coast, Dan, he's got to watch it at 9:30 at night. I'm just not complaining about 8:30 because there's playoff hockey. It's one of the best things in all of sports. I can't say the best. I know Dan disagrees because I love the month of March. But yes, I am looking forward to some hockey games here. Looking forward to all the playoffs. Who did you give me a Stanley Cup pick? I'm going to Avs Rangers. Who are you going?
I'll go. I said on Saturday this is the most basic pick. I'll go Avs Florida, and I'll take the Avs to win it. It's kind of the popular pick, but those two teams have been by far and away the best team in each conference this year.
Now, I haven't looked far ahead. Are we looking at a July Stanley Cup?
It looks like that. It's late.
It's late because of the Olympics, and they had that delay in the season. And right. I get it; it happens all the time, especially the last couple of years when Tampa's had it. Now, but you're talking Sunrise Florida Cup in July. Nothing like the NHL in Florida in July. I mean,
hey, don't rule out Tampa though; they could be going for the three-peat. You never know.
You could go to Sunrise on the southeast side, or you could Sunrise or Tampa. Yeah, I mean both those teams are terrific. The East is terrific, though. I think there's 5 really good teams out of the West. I wish the Oilers, obviously, I hope the Oilers win a playoff series. I do. I don't like the Oilers. I don't hate the Oilers. They're not a big rival to the Blues, so I don't care. But like, I hate to see McDavid and Draisaitl's legacy known as these amazing, amazing hockey players that can't win the playoffs. Like, I want them to at least experience maybe a second, or maybe they can be the team that can play. Could you imagine an Edmonton, Colorado Western Conference Finals? It might be 9-8.
Wow, that would be entertaining to say the least.
It would be entertaining. You would see some of the best hockey players in the game playing in the Western Conference Finals. I think that would be fun. But yes, the Battle of Alberta for the second round of the playoffs would be fun. If that's Calgary, Edmonton, yes. So that's what. So if I'm hoping St. Louis, Colorado. I'm hoping Edmonton, Calgary. That's what I'm hoping. Forget Nashville. Forget Dallas. No, thank you. Don't like those guys. And you know who didn't make the playoffs this year?
Chicago Blackhawks.
The Chicago Blackhawks.
Any chance we get to dump on the Blackhawks on the show, we will do it.
Yeah, they didn't make the playoffs.
Any Chicago team.
Again, they didn't make the playoffs.
So. They're bad. The Blues are good. We're in the playoffs. They're not. End of story.
Cubs stink, too.
Cubs stink. Yes, they do. But, hey, they did win today to help us out, so we do appreciate that. Yeah. But enjoy it. You know, the Cardinals, they have one more home game before they head on a little bit of road series. They head to Kansas City, but they host Kansas City tomorrow. The rain out game moved up 12-15. Then they head to Kansas City, head to the Giants. They come back to St. Louis. Blues start tomorrow, 8:30. Enjoy those late night hockey games. But for Rodney Newpel, I am Colton Kaler signing off on the St. Louis Sports Show. We'll see you.
See you guys.